where it always used to be about competition. And, we are seeing a change in mindset now, and that there seems to be more of a collaboration to succeed theme. So I think collaboration is actually key. And I think understanding the whole end to end, coming back to the point, is pretty important as well.
Welcome to Chain Reaction, the podcast for the supply chain and logistics industry. If you enjoy this conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Welcome back, everyone, and welcome again to the Chain Reaction podcast. I'm Michael, CEO of Flocks Logistics Marketplace. This is a podcast that's brought to you by Flocks as a way to engage with logistics and supply chain professionals and to explore ideas and people and the thinking that are shaping the industry. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to grow the reach and reach people that value thoughtful conversations and insights about logistics and supply chain. As That's a good moment for us at the moment. So as we approach International Women's Day on the 8th of March, it feels particularly fitting to highlight the people that are shaping the future of the industry. Logistics still remains one of the most male-dominated sectors in the UK as well as elsewhere, and yet there are many leaders working to broaden the talent base and challenge that reality. Today, my special guest is Helen Hardy, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. Helen has chosen to build her career in logistics and transport and help people to develop profession and support the work done across the sector. Helen, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Hello, Michael. Great to be here.
Thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast. And as usual, I like starting the conversation with with a story. So you have a law degree, yet today you lead one of the most important professional bodies in logistics in the UK. And I'd love to hear, how did this journey begin, how it unfolded, and what drew you into the world of logistics.
Brilliant. Starting with an easy question then. Okay, so I think uh, looking back to uni, I was a bit misguided actually. I think I watched too much Ally McBeal, and I had a view of what a solicitor, what a solicitor's life would be, and I don't think it was actually based in reality. So when I came out, funnily enough, my first job was in logistics, or back then it was distribution, and I didn't recognize it at the time. I'd gone into a large organization that manufactured cans, working in the distribution department. Went on and had a career, extensive career in recruitment, which is actually very much about skills, but it's also about finding sort of people. It's about building relationships. It's very competitive. Spent 15 years there. And probably like many, I actually fell into recruitment. So in my recruitment days, I ran a very large on-site for a large 3PL. Used to have about sort of 1,500 or so staff in peak periods. So I was very close to the operation. It was a big retail brand, and I just loved the environment. It was quick, it was fast, it was straight talking. For me, it suited me. And then I ended up doing a few years in a big charity. CILT are a charity. We are purpose driven, so that was helpful. And then I ended up at CILT. Um, Going back now, I did 5 years director of membership and engagement, and my love continued for the sector, or as I call it, the profession, because we are professionals. And yeah, so then I sort of I came out and did a stint directly for a 3PL, and then recently, the rest. I think CILT asked me to return, which I did, and I was appointed as the chief executive in January this year.
Well, congratulations, and I think it's very important that the CILT has been going through a bit of change and over the past few years, and I think it very well positioned to actually drive the industry forward. The industry at the moment is facing numerous challenges, and we obviously not going to be talking about the ongoing geopolitical tensions, but we still whatever happens to to the oil supply chains, but even overall globally, there's a lots of things that are impacting supply chains, that are impacting logistics, and despite that it happens on the other side of the planet, we're still getting affected over here. So would you probably share your perspective, not necessarily of this like the very instantly happening kind of issues, but perhaps overall on the market situation, because we've gone through quite a tough period in 25, and what are we facing in 26? What do you think the industry is going?
Yeah, interesting question. I think it's a bit of a mixed picture, to be honest, because somewhat depends on sort of the vertical and the areas that you work in. If I look sort of holistically, we've got the market is challenging for sure. So if we look at sort of the structural pressure with costs, margin squeezes, operating costs rising faster than inflation. We've still got the skills and driver shortages. They're persisting. We've got infrastructure, uh, still frictions at borders. So, but then there's opportunities as well. So I think it's mixed. In some areas, depending on the customers, may potentially be doing better than others, and also depending on the structure of the organization, the larger compared to the SMEs. So it's challenging, but then there's opportunities as well. So
How do you think that's very interesting, and this is one of the things, I mean, me too, sort of, as many of our colleagues have accidentally fell into the world of logistics. So kind of I'm a numbers guy, I'm a finance guy, I'm the tech guy. I studied quantum physics, so I love this, but what I love is the complexity of the whole thing.
yes.
It's the, I mean, you've mentioned how many different challenges that are impacting in a very different way. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative, some of them just simply kind of environmental, as in not affecting anything. But this kind of the multidimensional chess, that's what excites many people. But and that's what drives the industry participation. But one of the things that I would love to ask you is that among your members, you have a fairly wide mix of partners. You have larger corporates that are dealing, that have quite a lot of bandwidth, that have quite a lot of bench and resources with which they can address challenges. And then you have SMEs, and there's a lot of them. And SMEs may struggle these days quite a lot. So how do you think they feel? What do you hear they are sharing with you? And how do you think both the industry can help them, as well as how CILT can potentially help them move forward as well?
It's a great question. I think when I look, but you're right, going sort of back to your sort of opening sort of statement there. So CLT is a broad church. We operate across all modes of transport, and that there's sort of pros and cons there because in this day and age, you live in a connected world. So the great thing is, sort of end to end, you're not just looking at one particular area, you're looking across all of the modes of transport. Um, I don't think there is one answer. You talk to 100 different people and you'll get 100 different responses. You'll get commonality, in terms of fuel prices or infrastructure or sustainability or skills. But like I say, across you'll have different people at different I guess sort of, places in terms of their journey. Some are very advanced in terms of the adoption of AI and automation, and others not so. I think the fear is that some of the sort of SMEs will get left behind, if you like, because they just don't have the structure or the investment capability. So, and the world is changing quite rapidly. The pace feels fast. Um, you know, our business is learning. It's at the heart of what we do, and I'm constantly learning. But as much as I learn, there's more out there to learn. So, there's a range of different skills that are coming into play now. Um, so, I think that one of the key things, and I think about this, I don't mean to sort of ramble, is about collaborating where you can. So, because actually, it may be that. that sort of networking collaboration piece may potentially support, in terms of equipment or assets or whatever that looks like, if you are a smaller SME in comparison to a larger organization. But even that said, we're seeing a change in mindset where it always used to be about competition, and we are seeing a change in mindset now, and there seems to be more of a collaboration to succeed theme. So I think collaboration is actually key, and I think understanding the whole end to end, coming back to the point, is pretty important as well. In the old days it was all silos and you've got a cost center, and but I think the world is changing, and because of the disruptions, and there's a sneeze somewhere else, and there's a huge kind of impact that on us. So yeah, so I think the learning and the silos, understanding the whole sort of end to end is important.
Very interesting. There's a lots of elements there to unpack, and it's my multi-dimensional problem as you said. And I'll probably would love to get to kind of the technological side of things that can help with the collaboration maybe a bit later on in our discussion. But let us first, because you mentioned earlier driver shortages and some labor gaps. So on if we look at the people side of this of the equation, so we have kind of on one hand there are some structural labor issues. Yes, we don't have enough drivers. Um, uh, the second one there would be it's aging workforce in that space. So we have a lot of kind of senior people with tons of experience, but not many youngsters are coming in. I did mention that it's a male-dominated sector, yet there are so many other roles, not just necessarily being the drivers, but there are so many other roles where ladies can contribute very, very effectively, and all the way through the hierarchy, all the way from, I don't know, customer service and planners, all the way to leadership positions. So what are your views on how can that particular, well, let's call it a two-dimensional problem of shortages on one hand, and the kind of the leadership capabilities and the training and educational things, and inviting or in incentivizing or inspiring young people to join. How do you think that kind of the human side of things can be addressed?
Okay, so I think it's about changing the narrative. We've seen the growth in logistics. If you roll back, we were strong in manufacturing. We've lost traction there, but actually, logistics is a huge contributor in terms of the UK. Um, there are a number of things, but changing the narrative for one is important. So I think it's about logistics looking modern, purposeful, progressive. If we think as well about the generations that are coming up, they're very different, or, research suggests, I'm not an expert, but, the reading that I do all indicates that, the research suggests that the motivations are very different, probably to when I was at university. Um, you know, Graduates and the next generation, they're looking for purpose, that societal impact. They want very clear progression pathways. They actually want modern tech enabled environments, the professional status, and they want continuous learning. And actually, logistics is a really exciting place to be. It is, it is a place, I believe, that you can be recognized very quickly for how you perform. It's maybe not as closed as some sectors. And all of the innovation that's happening, the speed, the essential nature of what we do, the fourth emergency service almost. Um, so the narrative change, I think, it starts with that. Um, but I think a lot of what we do, I'm not just saying that, but in terms of CILT, we provide the CPD, recognized professional status. I don't talk about industry, I talk about profession, because we are professionals. If you know, because the organizations have changed so much, our markets have changed, logistics and supply chain is a hugely important profession. So, and I think we just need to get that message out that it's an important sector, that it is a profession, that there's lots of opportunity. It's a problem solving profession, but when you work hard, you can go far. And I think that's key. And having those professional pathways, and I guess lastly, the sort of identification piece. So that people come into the profession, they look at leadership and they see themselves in that leadership. They can see that route to the boardroom almost.
You are listening to Chain Reaction. This podcast is brought to you by Phlox, the leading marketplace for the supply chain and logistics industry. Visit phlox.is to find out how you find the perfect supplier or make your services available to prospective buyers. Thanks for tuning in. Now back to the show.
It's very, very interesting because I 100% see your point in terms of the industry is underappreciated, and the status is not what it should be, because it doesn't matter how beautiful you can make the products on one end of the planet. You can't, if you can't move them properly, nobody will know that they exist. So logistics actually is really, really key part of any economics. I mean, one may argue that, well, some people say that the banking is the blood is the blood of an economy. I I would say it's logistics as well, or we can debate the body parts equivalents, but uh, but that's exactly it. We can't survive without it. If we don't have toilet paper on the shelves, the society will collapse, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as we all kind of know, COVID and Brexit started to really identify the importance. I think if you look at a lot of the large organizations, you're now more and more seeing, um, the C-suite, and they're coming from that logistics and supply chain because, it's a driver of business value and it's a differentiator. And, so whereas, I think things are changing, and it's a strategic enabler. That's the reality, in terms of sort of your operation and your business. Your logistics and supply chain is critical. So yeah, I'd put us above finance actually. But there we go. My finance director wouldn't agree, but
Well, we have a lot of good examples of people, as you said, are growing up from an operational logistics environment, or operational in general, like Tim Cook, for example, the CEO of Apple, and he came from operations. Many industries, many larger corporates that are actually debating of introducing into C-suite level a chief supply chain officer. Kind of recognizing the fact and importance, because I mean, I wouldn't call that the function has been treated as an afterthought, but it's like a commodity. It's like, yeah, the thing that is out there. Uh, and obviously, if it works perfectly, nobody notices. As you know, like with those aircraft investigators, like, yeah, 1,000 airplanes have landed safely and nobody cares. But if one just dropped out of the sky, then we have all over newspapers. So yeah, this is the environment that we live in, unfortunately. So
yeah, and the headlines as well. We all have seen the headlines over recent years, and you read the case studies, don't you, of something that sort of happens in logistics and all the supply chain, and yeah, there's a change in fortune, and a huge impact.
and yeah, and everybody, yeah, talks about this, the supply from China is going to get stopped because we have a massive container ship stuck in the middle of Suez Canal. But it's interesting point that you mentioned earlier, and this is probably also, yeah, kind of following up on the younger generations coming in, and they expect technology. And you did mention the word AI, and everybody talks about AI these days, and I don't think that it's a passing comment, or is a kind of it's a fashionable word to use. It's actually meaningfully and substantially impacting our daily lives. I would be interested to hear your perspective on how technology helps on both on the people development and evolution side of things, as well as the business evolution, so the business models, or the operational environments that the institute members are facing.
I'm using AI quite a lot. And so I'm not a graduate. I graduated in 95. But it's interesting. I think we are seeing, y- I listen to a lot and I read a lot, and the conversation is always about not adopting for adoption's sake, but identifying the problems that you've got and then looking for solutions in AI. I think there's a lot we don't know. And I myself, I'm using AI, but I'm not in an environment like one of the big 3PLs or one of we are a smaller charity. So my view is going to be different. So some of my view comes from talking to members and partners, and from my own reading. I think it can support previous complex jobs. So actually, there can be a lower barrier there to entry. There used to be some very complex jobs that would take years and years to train. If you think about sort of AI-assisted planning tools and digital driver aids and so on. So I think in ways it can enable flexible and hybrid working. It can support accessibility and inclusion, and it can in a sense democratize learning. So learning's changing and it's I think a lot more accessible now. um, and it's not just about qualifications now, it's about micro credentials and online CPD and so on. So there's a lot happening in the space, but workers can get left behind as well. um, so there's a lot of pros and cons.
Because one of the things that I wanted also to touch upon was one of the things that what you're saying is all kind of the general trend for the industry and how the industry gets impacted with the technology. This is absolutely valid and important. What I would also love, because you've touched upon kind of the education, the knowledge transfer, and over decades of CILT's existence, there's a tons of knowledge that has been accumulated. There's tons of wisdom, for lack of a better word, has been accumulated. So how can this be transferred to or provided or opened up for the younger generations, for the new joiners, for the people that may have a passing interest in logistics but might get excited because they have learned about a great story or something like that. So in general, very, 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 very absolutely important. But from the CILT point of view, exactly kind of from where you sit, from your vantage point, how does that impact your life, other than ChatGPT uh, helping like me, typing emails?
So in my world, it's about finding efficiencies to enable, and so how I'm adopting in my environment is finding efficiencies to enable investment elsewhere. So we've got a strategy that we're working to. We've got significant investment in digital platforms. So we've got a learning management system, and uh, we've got IP, we've got content across the whole suite of transport, logistics, and supply chain. And like I say, in the old world, it was all about qualifications, and you'd go off and you'd be physically in the room and you'd study. But the world is changing, so um, we are very much looking at, we've got all this content here, we've got all this business intelligence. We've got I think the largest logistics and transport library in Europe. We've got the IP in our qualifications, which are regulated, so a very high standard. So we're putting a lot into the learning management system that will bring personalization. It will be more accessible. It will enable people to access it. It will enable people to map so they can look at what career they want, and they can plug in skills, and it will tell them what things they need to do to get to that point. And that could be free CPD via membership, or it could be a modular course. So um, because of the priorities that we have, and we do a lot, I'm also adopting where I can in more sort of the automation of workflows. So where I've got very manual processes, we're trying to automate, and that frees me up with the resource to work on the content, because a key focus for us is the content. In terms of our purpose, it is, we're a charity. So our purpose is to provide public benefit, and it's really about providing education, CPD, best practice, thought leadership. And and the why is so that people can do their job better, or so that organizations can perform better. And that is down to that content and that knowledge, going back to your point, which is absolutely valuable. We need to, support with that knowledge journey so that people are equipped to deliver across whatever mode of transport that they're in. And more, we're finding people need to understand all of the modes. It's not just about, oh, I work in this division, I work in this division. You need that end-to-end understanding of the whole network. And if you're in a big organization, you need that systems thinking, don't you? It's no longer about the division you work, or the cost center you're in. You need that systems thinking. You need to understand the big picture.
Indeed, so any decision in logistics actually very often have a knock-on effect on many other functions, and the wide, and as you said, the system thinking is absolutely critical, which actually could be quite exciting for some, and it could be quite daunting for people that have difficulty, because when they see the whole sheer complexity without having access to elements of the knowledge that will help kind of to build it step by step, it just feels scary at the moment.
I think that's a good point, and I think that's why we are seeing a shift in learning to this sort of modular, bite-sized. We are seeing very, very much a shift in that learning. Sorry, and also going back, I think mentoring is also critical here as well. It's all part of the same conversation, because you've got the learning, but there's different skills, aren't there? You've got the soft skills, and that mentoring piece is also critical, and it's a way of, going back to your original question.
We talked about kind of the skills, what the shortages of labor and the skills transfer, some of the challenges. So there are many. I mean, my son is doing his A level, so he's pretty much set on what he wants to do in terms of uni. But many youngsters of his generation are thinking about where they want to build a career. They're asking themselves a question: will my career be obsolete 3 years from now because of the AI and whatever? So what kind of advice you might give the youngsters that are thinking about the career in logistics, career in that space, and especially, and I want to emphasize that again, and especially for women that may not even considering, it may not even be on the radar screen, while still being quite an exciting opportunity potentially.
My advice would be to seek breadth early and then depth later on. So that would give you that sort of end to end, if you like. So earlier on in your career, just put your hand up for everything, as many projects as you can, if it be in another division department, you know. So get as much experience as you can of the whole operation, as opposed to sitting in one place. I think is critical, and then later down the line you can specialize in whatever it is that sort of is a good fit for you. Rotate, absolutely. um, I think choose employer carefully as well. So, yes, if you are a woman, then look for, women in leadership roles. That's kind of telling you, kind of in terms of the organization, it's if I look back to me coming into logistics, to be fair, I think, there's a few places I have worked. I worked for a trade body previously, similar. I was the first female manager. It wasn't that long ago. As I say, I graduated in 95. I think when I joined here, there hadn't been a female director here previously, and I was definitely a shock to the system. I think a good shock now, retrospectively, but they probably wouldn't have said so at the time. So yeah, check out the employer carefully. But going back to some of the other points that we've talked about, professional bodies, networking and mentoring are, for me, such an important part. I wouldn't be here now. I've had such strong mentors over the last, in particular the last 5 years actually, and yeah, they've been hugely helpful in terms of my career. So that's what I'd say is critical.
that reminded me of a saying. So on one hand, yeah, you're saying absolutely rightly, is kind of do your own research, speak with people, and look for mentors that can help. And the other one is as the saying goes, fortune favors a prepared mind. So be prepared, be ready, be open. Because I mean, both yours and my example, as one of those, you don't know. You're not necessarily consciously getting into a particular space. It's just it kind of happens, and you grow to learn it, to love it, or it may be maybe an instant love, but you need to recognize it, because you never know what are the kind of the first seeds of it will bring. So it's an absolutely fascinating discussion. Thanks very much, Helen, for being a great guest. And I would love to ask you one last question. And we've spoken about many challenges. You mentioned quite a few things that the industry faces, whether this is the talent, the knowledge transfer, and many other challenges, including the macroeconomics. But if I ask you this, what if you had a magic wand and you can wave it and you can solve one problem, but instantly, at a major issue that is holding back the sector, the industry, the business? What would it be?
Yeah, I think it's got to be around that connection piece. It's very rare that something will start and finish on the same mode, and there is a disconnect quite often. And I think for the profession to be better connected across all the modes of transport, I don't know what that looks like. Um, but you've got, for instance, you're on sort of lorries, you're on rail, then you're on ships, but that kind of holistic of it all being connected better, I think, yeah, I think that would be for the profession, that would be what I would change.
Amazing. No, no, that is absolutely music to my ears, because this is kind of what exactly at Flux that we're trying to do. So hopefully, well, we're not going to be able to solve it overnight, but I hope at least we're definitely making a dent in this effort.
Sorry, I think you got me on the hop there, didn't you? And I'm not sure I've managed to articulate what I meant, but a better connected profession.
That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense to me. So Helen, thank you very much for joining the conversation, and for sharing your perspective, especially at the time where recognizing the leadership and the diversity in our industry is absolutely critical and important. And to everyone still watching and listening, thank you very much for staying with us. I hope that discussion gave you some useful insights and inspiration as we approach the International Women's Day. I keep on saying that, but that is a perfect timing for that. And I look forward to welcoming you again in the next episode of Chain Reaction Podcast. Thank you, Helen, again for being a wonderful guest.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for tuning in to Chain Reaction. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have a story or insights to share from your sector, we'd love to hear from you. Simply reach out to us through the links in the description. See you next time.